Hi. So the purpose of this video is to show you how to mount and operate the HDS Lowrance fathometer that gathers bathymetry data for us at Environmental Services. So this is basically all the equipment you should receive if you're borrowing it, and you would have the main unit here with the power cable attached. You have two separate power cables which plug on, and I will demonstrate that in a minute. And this here is the portable transom mount for the sounder, and basically cable attached. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you, and the first thing you're going to want to do is hook this up to your boat. So I'm going to basically show you how to use the transom mount on a couple different boats. But the very first thing you want to do is uncoil all this cable off here. It's very important to get a good secure connection. Plus you don't want to crimp and damage any of these cables. So I'm going to come back when I have that done. See you in a bit. Alright, I'm back and I have the transom mount, basically all the cables off, and this is ready to go on the transom, and there we go, there's my boat. And the first thing you want to do is basically pull out that little clamp right there and make sure that it'll slip over your transom, and that's more than enough for us here. So basically I'm going to slip it over. You want to make sure it's out of the way of the motor, and then you can basically twirl this down until it's tight. Alright, that clamp's drawing in now, and that's fairly tight. You don't need to over tighten it, nice and snug. And as you can see, it's drawing it down along the transom, and it's holding it tight there. So next, you want to have this below the lower end of your transom, but this is really kind of hanging a little too low. And as you can see right here, there is an adjustment, and it should slide. I probably have to actually loosen up my top to make it come up the way I want it. And as you can see right there, you want that transducer antenna just below your bottom of your transom. And next thing you want to do, I gotta get my hands out of here, for gosh sake. Okay, now I got you a little better angle. You can see that the bottom of this bracket right here is just right resting on the bottom of the transom, and this antenna is hanging down below. You do want to make sure this is adjustable here. You want to make sure that it is at a right angle. It is currently at a right angle, so that's good. And then you can snug up your bracket so that it doesn't move around when you're basically taking your readings. And that's all there is to attaching this to a transom that is designed for mounting a motor. And next I'm going to switch over and I'm going to show you how to mount this on a canoe, a tapered boat with no transom. Alright, I'll be back. Now, back to show you how to hang your bracket on a canoe. Generally, on the back end of the canoe, you cannot put it right on the tip. It just won't go. You could put it back on that end, but I tend to like to put it in the middle because it keeps it away from where I'm paddling, and I'm less likely to hit it. But again, the idea is the same. Hang it on top of the gunnel, and then just crank it in. This is probably going to go just about all the way in to make it happen. Problem with hanging it like this is as you're propelling forward, it sometimes gets pushed like that. You do want your bracket straight up and down, so you better snug it up really good. Also, that isn't too bad. You do, canoes tend to tip, so you want to put it down the water line. Plus, they have such a low draft anyway, you're not really worried about hitting it quite as much on the bottom. They go slower as well, but that is perfectly fine the way it is. Now, one last thing on placement of your bracket and your transducer. Not so much an issue with canoes because they go slow, but I have seen weeds come around and collect here and cause cavitation, cause air bubbles, and have you lose your depth readings. It's much more common on the boats with motors. If it's not low enough, you may lose depth reading from cavitation, which is air bubbles and voids around the transducer, and it will cause the unit to lose readings. You certainly don't want to be driving around and not collecting any data, so you must keep an eye on it and keep an eye on the unit and the screen to make sure you're collecting data. Again, if weeds collect around here and you start having issues, you want to stop and clean the weeds off. You might have to do that a few times depending on how weedy your water body is. Now, this setup with a canoe is definitely going to cause some drag, and it will kind of mess with the way your canoe tracks a little bit. It'll probably crab a little bit on you, and you will certainly have to counter steer a bit more often to keep it going in a straight line. The beauty of this whole unit is it knows where it is at all times, so it's really unnecessary to do any type of straight transect or anything like that. Wherever you happen to be in the water body, it will know exactly where it is and to collect the data. So certainly anybody who is fairly good with a canoe will be able to counteract the action of having this on here, but it certainly will affect the way your canoe tracks, as a warning. But that's it as far as hanging this bracket. I guess I'm going to let you go so I can take it off, and you don't need to be bored with that, and I'll be back with an introduction to the main unit itself and how to operate that. Okay, now that you've got the transom mount in place, what we need to do is unpack the unit itself. And it comes, just take the power cord off and take the cover off the unit. Alright, on the back side, this is the power cord. We never unplug it. What you should also have is these are capped up all the time. You should leave them in place. And what you need to do is take your transducer cable, and it's got a little key in there, and the key should match a spot where you can plug it in, and then you turn the collar, ring collar here, and it is plugged in. After that, you can open it up, and it will set down on your boat somewhere safe, like so. Now, let me put this aside for a minute and show you that the power cord has two options. As I showed earlier when I was introducing it, we have a standard lighter socket plug, which plugs in, and again, these plugs are keyed. They can only go one way. You cannot mess it up. You plug that in, and you can plug this into your lighter socket if you have such things, or you can plug it directly to your battery by unplugging and plugging in these clips that are similar to what you'd find on booster cables, and you can plug it to any outboard deep cycle battery. These cables, first of all, the red indicates a positive. Also, what you can see is that there's a positive indicated on the plug itself, and here that's negative, also wrapped in black tape similar to a booster cable. And you just want to make sure that you get the right polarity when hooking it to your battery, and it should be ready to turn on. And I'm going to bring you over and we'll go through some of the menus. Okay, now before we begin, let's do a quick introduction to the controls of the unit itself. Basically, you have a series of buttons here. Your power is there. This is a menu button. You have exit and enter. These buttons aren't used very much and won't be used for our purposes today, so I'm going to skip them. You have a little, I don't know, like a toggle for the cursor. And the interface, once it comes up, can give you menus along the bottom, and they correspond with these buttons along the bottom. So that's what those are for. In here, we have card slots for the memory card. There's usually only one memory card in it, but there's two slots. You should take a note on which slot the card is in. I am inserting it into the left slot now. You'll need to know that later. So we will fire it up, and it boots up. Takes a few minutes to boot up. Okay. All right. And the first thing it does is it gives you this warning. You can read it if you'd like, and you cannot move on until you hit accept. And again, you see the menu along the bottom here. I'm going to point out really only this one here. And that, zoom in, that says frequency, 200 kilohertz. it is very easy to hit this button, as we have discovered in the field accidentally, and change this off of 200 kilohertz, which would be very bad because that does not give us all the information we need. So it is best that you check and make sure that it's on 200 kilohertz and that it stays there. So, all right, but now we need to set this up for logging. Before you embark on taking your data, you must do this, and that's all you have to do. Once you're done, it should basically take data to the data card all day long. So you want to hit menu. Use your little toggle to go all the way down to log sonar. Okay, then we would hit the enter button. Hit the enter button. Okay, and this is your log sonar setup page. So, this is unfortunate that it defaults to internal memory, because there's not very much internal memory on here in this unit. You go down and you see I hit the down arrow once and it is highlighting that. If I hit enter, yes, it gives me memory card left. And remember, we put the memory card in the left hand side. That's exactly where you want it, because if you log on the internal memory, you'll only get about a half hour out of it. And in most cases, that will not be enough. So you definitely want to make sure you hit enter here and select and make sure that says memory card left. Now you can change the name, or frankly, you can just leave it, because it should default to, it should index this and give it a unique name. And certainly once you return the unit, I can deal with the name. But if you really want to, I will show you how to change the name. And you would hit enter with that highlighted. Oh, it's actually giving me a message and it won't go. I'm indoors now, so this shouldn't come up with you out. But I'm just going to say it says no GPS fix. It won't let me go on until I say yes to that. That will not happen to you in the field. It's because I'm just operating these menus. Yep. Focus, please. Thank you. All right. So now what I'm going to do to show you how to hit to put in the name, you hit enter, and here's a keyboard. It'd be nice if you could type, but you can't. You have to move the cursor around and hit the enter button to type in your letters. Oh, yeah, you want to clear this out first. I'm going to show you clear, and that clears that out. Now you are free to type in. I'm not really going to put in any sort of, but as you can see, you scroll around and it puts in whatever I type. Now, okay, so you accept whatever I've put in, and there's okay. Now, from this point on, you have a file name, you have the memory card left or memory card right if it happens to be in the right. It detects that for you. You need to change nothing else, and you would hit record. And it's going to start recording. At the bottom, you see recording sonar. It pops up with that message every once in a while. You know, I'm getting garbage for data because I'm not in the water right now. But see again, it's popped up. It will pop up and tell you every once in a while exactly how long, there we go, how long you've been recording. And that's all you need to do. You will need to basically start driving around and collect data. It will take the GPS reading of where you are, and it will collect the depth data. You need not do any more input. It's best to kind of stay away from the buttons, but to stop it now, you would want to hit stop. Pops up with this menu. It tells you exactly how long you've been recording, etc., how much. You would need to hit, if you hit this accidentally, you certainly can hit close. It goes away. I will show you that. But if you want to actually indeed stop it, you hit that same button twice, and there, it's gone. It's moved out, and you have automatically saved the file to your SD card. So now, next thing you want to do is hold this button down, and it will shut the unit off for you. And that again, so you see, is the power button. And that should be it. Okay, put you back in the stand to walk through taking this down. Obviously, the first thing you want to do is disconnect your battery, kill power to the unit itself. You can then slide that back down. You can tighten these things using the thumb screws on each side in case it's really loose and sloppy or too tight for you to move. Okay, now again we leave the power in place, but we want to pull the by turning a half turn counterclockwise and pulling on this plug, and there it pops off. Okay. Put our cover back on. The cover has a square for the screen and a spot for the buttons. It only goes on one way. Lowrance is facing up, of course. And there you go. So that's there. And then generally what we can do is wrap the power cord around that. If you got these clips on here, you can leave them on like that. Make sure you keep your other cable with it. And now, with your, obviously disconnect your the transom bracket, and you just want to wrap this around. I'm going to have a hard time showing you, but that's basically all you do. It's going to take a while, and so I'm not going to bore you with that. And there we are. Our unit's all nicely buttoned up again, just like you found it, just like you received it, hopefully. And that is it. You're done. You would return that with the SD card in place to DES, and we will do the rest, process the data, and get your bathymetry back to you. All right. Thank you for watching.